There is one plant on this list that almost nobody plants on purpose, and yet it is quietly making ordinary landowners richer than entire cattle ranches. It sits at number 10, and if you skip it, you will miss the one entry in this video that most people walk past every single day without ever knowing what it is worth. So stay with me, because by the time we get there, you're going to look at your own backyard completely differently. What if the ground you are standing on right now, the same dirt you mow over or ignore, was sitting on top of a fortune? Not gold, not oil, something alive, something you could grow with your own 2 hands and sell for more per pound than most people earn in a day. Farmers all over the world are doing exactly that, quietly, without machinery, without inherited land, without a single acre of factory farming, and they are becoming millionaires from crops most people have never even considered. This is not about luck. It is not about huge farms or expensive tractors. It is about knowing which 12 plants the wealthiest growers on earth are quietly cashing in on, while everyone else keeps planting the same tired vegetables for pennies. Hey plant lovers, welcome back to the channel where we turn ordinary soil into extraordinary opportunity. Before we go any further, tell me in the comments where you are watching from right now, because farming wealth is not local, it is global, and somebody watching this in your exact climate has probably already made this work. In the next few minutes, you are going to see 12 plants that are quietly building fortunes for the farmers smart enough to grow them, how to think about turning a small plot into a scalable income machine, and why the plant sitting at number 10 is the one most people completely ignore, even though it might be the easiest path to real money on this entire list. This is not another generic gardening video telling you to plant tomatoes and herbs. This is a breakdown of the exact crops that are already quietly funding land purchases, new equipment, and early retirements for the farmers who bothered to research them before everyone else caught on. Some of these plants you have heard of and dismissed as too difficult. Others you have probably never even considered farmland worthy, and one of them is sitting in plain sight in more backyards than you would ever guess. Stick around because I am not just naming plants. I am walking you through why each one holds its value, what kind of buyer actually pays for it, and how a beginner with no experience and very little land can realistically start. If you want more videos like this, breaking down exactly which crops, plants, and hidden opportunities can change your financial future, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you never miss one. Let us get into it. Plant number 1, saffron. Saffron proves that farming is not about how much land you own. It is about how smart you are with the land you have got. This is the most expensive spice on the planet, and it grows from a small, unassuming purple flower that most people would walk right past without a second glance. Each flower produces only a handful of delicate red threads, and those threads have to be harvested by hand, one at a time, in a narrow window before sunrise. That difficulty is exactly why the price stays so high. Most farmers hear about the labor involved and turn away, which keeps the supply thin and the demand desperate. The farmers who commit to the process are rewarded with buyers who are not haggling over pennies. They are paying premium prices for a rare commodity. Saffron also stores beautifully once dried, meaning you are never forced into a rushed sale. You can wait for the right buyer and the right price. It fits into farming calendars in a clever way too, often growing during a season when other crops are dormant, adding income instead of competing for your time and attention. Restaurants, perfumers, and gourmet exporters are constantly hunting for reliable saffron growers, and once you become one, you stop being seen as just another farmer and start being treated as a supplier of luxury. A small backyard bed of saffron corms can outperform an entire acre of traditional produce once you calculate profit per square foot, which is exactly why so many smart landowners in tight urban spaces are quietly turning unused corners of their property into saffron plots. The corms multiply on their own over the years, meaning your planting stock grows for free while your harvest slowly expands, and a well-kept saffron bed can keep producing for well over a decade without ever needing to be dug up and replanted. Plant number 2, ginseng. Ginseng rewards a completely different mindset than most crops, because it does not pay you quickly. It pays you massively if you are patient enough to wait. This root can take years to mature, and every year it stays in the ground, its value climbs. While other farmers are planting, harvesting, and selling within a single season, ginseng growers are compounding wealth quietly underground. almost like a locked savings account that keeps earning interest. Wellness companies, supplement manufacturers, and traditional medicine markets around the world depend on a steady supply of mature roots, and there are simply not enough farmers willing to wait long enough to grow them properly. That imbalance between demand and patience is where the extraordinary prices come from. What makes ginseng even more interesting is that it actually prefers shade, which means wooded land, forested plots, and areas most farmers consider useless can suddenly become valuable. You do not need open fields, you need trees and time. Farmers who understand delayed gratification are the ones who win here, because when that harvest finally comes, after years of quiet growth, it comes in heavy, funding land expansion, equipment, and generational wealth in a single payout. The shape, age, and growing method of each root all affect price, and roots grown slowly under natural forest canopy consistently fetch far more than anything rushed or forced, which means the farmers who are willing to leave a plot alone for a long stretch of time are usually the ones who end up negotiating directly with buyers instead of settling for whatever a middleman offers. Plant number 3, vanilla. Vanilla looks delicate and innocent, but behind every bean is an enormous amount of human labor, and that labor is exactly why it commands such staggering prices worldwide. Every single flower must be pollinated by hand, often within hours of opening, and after that the beans have to be cured slowly over months before they are ready to sell. That process cannot be rushed, and it cannot easily be scaled by machines, which keeps casual growers out of the market entirely. Farmers who take the time to master pollination timing and curing technique are the ones who end up with a product buyers actively seek out by name. Vanilla is not a commodity crop, it is a relationship crop. Buyers care deeply about origin, consistency, and quality, and farmers who deliver that build long-term partnerships that become more valuable than any single harvest. The demand does not come from one industry either. Food, beverage, cosmetics, and fragrance companies are all competing for reliable vanilla sources. For a farmer willing to learn the process properly, vanilla stops being a crop on a farm and becomes a financial anchor for the entire operation. Because the vines can keep producing for many years once established, the early seasons of learning the pollination and curing process become an investment that keeps paying dividends long after the steepest part of the learning curve is behind you. And farmers who document their technique often find that knowledge itself becomes almost as valuable as the beans they grow. Plant number 4, wasabi. Real wasabi is one of the rarest edible plants in commercial agriculture, and most people who think they have tasted it never actually have. What ends up on restaurant tables is almost always a dyed imitation, and that gap between what people think wasabi is and what it actually is has created a hidden, protected market for the farmers who grow the real thing. Wasabi demands cold running water, precise shade, and constant vigilance, conditions that scare most growers away before they even start. That difficulty acts like a locked gate, and the farmers willing to push through it find themselves with almost no competition and buyers who are desperate for authenticity. Chefs, high-end restaurants, and specialty distributors do not want the cheapest option. They want the real plant, and they are willing to pay several times more for it. Selling directly to those buyers instead of anonymous middlemen can double or triple what a farmer earns per unit compared to ordinary produce. Wasabi teaches a lesson that applies to almost every plant on this list. Mastering one difficult thing completely will always outearn growing many easy things poorly. Even a small stream-fed plot, carefully shaded and monitored daily, can produce enough authentic rhizomes to supply a handful of serious restaurant clients. And because those clients rarely switch suppliers once they find a grower they trust, a single well-managed wasabi bed can quietly anchor a farmer's income for years without ever needing to expand production. Plant number 5, Morina. If ginseng and saffron reward patience, Morina rewards speed and consistency. This tree grows fast, aggressively, and generously, and once established, it keeps producing new leaves again and again with very little input. That makes it one of the most dependable income sources a farmer can plant when the goal is steady cash flow rather than a single big payout years down the line. The leaves are where the real money lies. They can be harvested continuously, dried quickly, and ground into a powder that health-conscious consumers and supplement companies are constantly buying. What makes Morina especially powerful is how many ways you can sell it. Fresh leaves move locally, dried leaves travel regionally, and processed powder can be shipped internationally, which means one plant creates several separate income streams. If one product slows down, another one keeps the money coming in. It also fits beautifully onto small plots and backyard operations, responding well to pruning so you can control its size while increasing yield. Farmers who understand Morina rarely struggle to sell it. Their real challenge becomes keeping up with how much buyers want. The tree also improves poor soil as it grows, fixing nutrients and providing shade for companion crops, which means a Morina planting often makes the surrounding land more productive at the same time. It is generating its own separate stream of income, turning one investment into two benefits at once. Plant number 6, industrial hemp. Hemp is one of the most misunderstood plants in modern farming, and that misunderstanding is exactly why the farmers who figured it out early are sitting on serious money today. This is not about anything illegal. Hemp is a legal, versatile crop used for fiber, seed oil, and wellness extracts, and the market for all three has exploded in the last several years. A single hemp plant can be sold in more directions than almost anything else on this list. The stalks for textiles and building materials, the seeds for oil and food products, and the flowers for extracts that supplement and skincare companies are constantly buying in bulk. Farmers who grow hemp properly are not gambling on one product category. They're diversifying across an entire industry from a single field. The plant also grows quickly and improves soil health as it goes, which means you are building long-term farm value while you harvest short-term income. The barrier that keeps many farmers away is simply unfamiliarity with regulations and processing, and that unfamiliarity is precisely what keeps the market wide open for the ones willing to learn it properly. Farmers who take the time to understand licensing requirements and build relationships with processors early often find themselves locked into supply contracts before the crop even matures, which removes the uncertainty of finding a buyer at harvest time and turns the entire season into a far more predictable business rather than a gamble. The building materials industry alone has started demanding hemp-based products as a lighter, more sustainable alternative to concrete and timber, and a farmer who positions themselves early in that supply chain can end up supplying an entirely different industry than the one they originally imagined when they planted their first seed. Plant number 7, lavender. Lavender looks soft and ornamental, but underneath that gentle image is a genuine cash-generating powerhouse. Its fragrant flowers, essential oils, and dried arrangements feed a massive global market that includes skincare brands, perfumers, and boutique tea companies, all of whom treat lavender as an industrial ingredient rather than a decorative plant. The real profit sits in its versatility. Flowers can be dried and sold for decoration or tea, and the oil extracted from those same flowers commands premium prices that small-scale farmers can compete for if they process carefully. Beyond the plant itself, lavender fields quietly attract something most farmers never planned for: tourism. Workshops, photography visits, and local experiences built around a blooming lavender field can become an entirely separate income stream layered on top of the harvest itself. Growing it well requires attention to well-drained soil, careful pruning, and disease management. But farmers who take those details seriously are rewarded with a product that consistently sells for multiples of what an untrained grower produces. Lavender fits beautifully alongside other high-value crops, turning a single plot into several overlapping revenue streams. It is also remarkably drought-tolerant once established, which means a lavender field can keep producing through dry seasons that would wipe out thirstier crops, giving farmers a dependable buffer of income even in years when the weather refuses to cooperate. Plant number 8, turmeric. Turmeric is a golden plant in every sense of the word, and farmers who understand its full potential stop seeing it as just another kitchen spice. Its roots can be sold fresh, processed into powder, or extracted into concentrated compounds for supplements and skincare, and each of those steps unlocks a new layer of profit. The global appetite for turmeric keeps growing because it sits at the center of wellness teas, anti-inflammatory supplements, and beauty products all at once, and farmers who can produce clean, high-potency roots find themselves in constant demand. The real skill lies in quality control, because roots that meet premium standards sell far above ordinary commodity prices, meaning careful cultivation translates directly into higher revenue. Turmeric prefers warm, humid climates, and rich, well-managed soil, and because it grows underground, harvest timing and drying technique matter enormously. A mistimed harvest can quietly cut a farmer's income in half. Farmers who stagger their plantings can enjoy a nearly year-round harvest schedule, turning turmeric from a single seasonal crop into a predictable, scalable engine that builds wealth season after season. The leaves and stems that most growers discard can also be composted or fed back into the soil, which lowers input costs over time and keeps the whole system feeding itself rather than draining the farmer's budget season after season. Buyers in the beauty industry have become especially aggressive about sourcing turmeric with verified curcumin content, and farmers who invest in basic testing and documentation can charge a noticeable premium simply because they can prove what a competitor can only promise. Plant number 9, ginger. Ginger feels ordinary because everyone has seen it in a kitchen, but the real wealth in ginger comes from understanding the entire value chain instead of just selling raw roots at the local market. Fresh root, dried root, powdered spice, and extracted oil each carry a different price tag, and every step of processing multiplies what a farmer can earn from the exact same harvest. Global demand for ginger touches teas, food products, medicine, and cosmetics all at once, and it never seems to slow down. Farmers who can maintain consistent quality gain access to buyers willing to pay well above average market rates. And because the roots store well, timing a sale to match peak demand can meaningfully boost income without growing a single extra plant. Smart growers even segment their harvest, sending some fresh to local markets, drying some for distant buyers, and powdering the rest for long-term storage and export. Ginger also compounds over time because cuttings from mature roots can become the next planting material, lowering costs while increasing yield year after year. Treated correctly, a modest plot of ginger can quietly rival the income of a much larger conventional farm. It thrives in loose, well-drained soil with partial sun and steady moisture, and farmers who rotate their fields and manage pests naturally instead of relying on heavy chemicals often notice their roots grow larger, cleaner, and far more valuable at the point of sale. Plant number 10, and this is the one most people scroll straight past without ever realizing what it is worth: bamboo. Most people think of bamboo as decoration, a privacy screen, or something pandas eat, and that assumption is exactly why so few farmers ever plant it seriously. In reality, bamboo is one of the fastest growing plants on the planet, some species gaining several feet in a single day, and that speed translates directly into an enormous, renewable harvest. Unlike almost every other plant on this list, bamboo does not need to be replanted after harvest. Cut it correctly, and the same root system keeps sending up new shoots for decades, which means the upfront investment keeps paying you back year after year without additional planting costs. The market for bamboo is far bigger than most people realize. Construction companies use it as a sustainable alternative to timber. Furniture makers prize it for its strength and flexibility. Textile companies turn it into fabric, and food companies sell the shoots as a delicacy. Plant number 11, dragon fruit. Dragon fruit looks like something from another planet: bright pink skin, dramatic scales, and a market price that surprises most people who have never grown it. This cactus fruit thrives in hot, dry conditions that would destroy most traditional crops, which means land that farmers consider marginal or difficult can suddenly become productive and profitable. The plant climbs rather than sprawls, so it can be grown vertically on simple posts, meaning a farmer can pack a surprising amount of production into a small footprint. Once established, dragon fruit can produce multiple harvests per year for well over a decade, all from the same original planting, which turns the initial investment into decades of recurring income. Health-conscious consumers, juice companies, and high-end grocery chains are constantly seeking reliable suppliers. And because the fruit is delicate and does not travel well over long distances, local and regional growers often have a natural advantage over imported competition. Farmers who add simple value, slicing, freezing, or juicing, can multiply their profit far beyond what a single raw fruit sale would bring. For a plant that many people still consider exotic and unfamiliar, dragon fruit rewards the farmers willing to plant it before it becomes common knowledge. It also tolerates neglect far better than most fruiting plants, surviving irregular watering and poor soil conditions that would kill off more delicate crops. which makes it a smart choice for farmers who want a high-value harvest without babysitting the plant every single day of the growing season. Plant number 12, aloe vera. Aloe vera is the perfect way to close out this list, because on the surface it looks almost too simple to be valuable, a hardy succulent with thick, gel-filled leaves that seems to grow itself. In reality, aloe vera sits at the center of a massive global market spanning health, skincare, and medicine, and farmers who understand this do not just sell leaves. They sell processed gel, dehydrated powder, and extracted compounds that multiply the value of every single harvest. The plant is remarkably forgiving to grow, thriving in a wide range of climates, requiring very little water, and resisting most pests without much intervention, which means it can produce serious income even on land that other crops would struggle to survive on. Once planted correctly, aloe vera fields keep producing for years without needing to be replanted, turning a single investment into a long-running, low-maintenance income stream. Farmers who add processing into their operation, turning raw leaves into gel or powder, unlock margins that raw leaf sales alone could never reach. And because the product ships well and stores easily, growers can sell locally, regionally, or internationally, depending on how they choose to scale. For anyone nervous about starting with a difficult crop like saffron or wasabi, aloe vera is often the easiest entry point on this entire list, forgiving enough for a complete beginner while still opening the door to the same processing and branding strategies that make the more demanding plants so profitable. And there you have it, 12 plants quietly making ordinary landowners wealthy, while most people keep planting the same predictable crops for the same predictable pennies. From the patient, underground wealth of ginseng to the overlooked, fast-growing fortune hiding in bamboo, every single plant on this list has the potential to turn ordinary soil into a real financial asset if you approach it with the right strategy, patience, and vision. Farming, done right, is no longer just about survival. It is about building assets, creating systems, and thinking like an investor who happens to work with dirt instead of stocks. You do not need to grow all 12 at once. Pick one or two that fit your climate and your patience level. Start small and master the growing, harvesting, and selling process before you scale it further. The real secret was never just planting something and hoping. It is choosing the right plant and working it intelligently, consistently, and strategically. Before you go, tell me in the comments which of these 12 plants you are most excited to try growing first. And if this video opened your eyes to opportunities sitting right in your own backyard, do not scroll away without hitting that subscribe button. There are more videos coming that can turn your land, your yard, or your farm into a real, lasting source of income, and you do not want to miss a single one. Every list like this one is only useful if you actually act on it. So pick the plant that fits your climate, your patience, and your budget, and take the first small step this week instead of waiting for a perfect moment that never arrives. Subscribe now, keep those notifications turned on, and I will see you in the next video with 12 more opportunities most people are still walking straight past.